Have you ever wondered what the government isn't telling you about survival? From government collaborations to questionable laws, get ready to explore the crucial things the government doesn't want preppers to know. Number 9. The rise of the super IRS agent. Have you heard about the recent government hiring spree at the IRS? They're aiming to bring in a whopping 87,000 new agents. Now, why should preppers care about tax collectors? Well, it may seem like these aren't your average number crunchers. These agents will be trained to be financial bloodhounds, sniffing out discrepancies with a level of detail we haven't seen before. They'll be especially focused on the new financial frontiers, like cryptocurrency and online transactions. Imagine every digital penny you send or receive being put under a microscope. Not exactly the recipe for financial freedom, right? But here's the most concerning part. These agents are packing some serious heat, not just tax codes and calculators. We're talking Glocks, Smith & Wessons, and other firearms. It might sound unbelievable, but it's a real concern. Why would tax collectors need to be armed? It raises a lot of questions about the potential enforcement tactics they might be authorized to use. This shift towards tighter control over our finances raises some red flags. It's not just about paying taxes on time, it's about the bigger picture. How much control do we have over our own money in a world of digital transactions? With this level of scrutiny, will we be able to manage our resources freely, especially as preppers who often rely on alternative financial tools? The ability to diversify your finances and keep some things off the grid becomes even more important. The idea of armed agents monitoring our finances adds a whole new layer of worry. It's about privacy and independence. As we move towards a more digital future, the ability to manage your finances without constant oversight becomes even more crucial. After all, what happens if these systems go down or are manipulated? Will you still have access to your hard-earned money? Preppers understand the importance of self-reliance, and that includes financial self-reliance. This is a wake-up call to take a closer look at your financial preparedness plan and make sure you have a backup system in place. Number 8. Surveillance by the Department of Homeland Security. The DHS casts a wide net when it comes to keeping an eye on things. This net can potentially capture a lot of different people, from those who pose a real threat to folks like us, to preppers who are simply interested in being prepared. The thing that raises eyebrows is the sheer scope of who they might be watching. Preppers, by nature, are all about being ready for anything, whether it's a natural disaster, a power outage, or some other kind of disruption. We take steps to be self-sufficient and look after ourselves and our families. Here's the problem. Sometimes, these very same preparations could be misinterpreted by broad surveillance programs looking for potential threats. To illustrate my point, think about this. You're stocking up on food and water, something any responsible person might do before a hurricane. But under a broad surveillance program, this activity of yours might be flagged as suspicious. This approach by the DHS raises a big question. Where's the line between national security and individual freedom? The idea that someone simply being prepared for the unexpected could be flagged as suspicious is a troubling concept. We preppers aren't criminals or terrorists. We're just folks who believe in taking responsibility for our own safety and well-being. We shouldn't have to worry that our common-sense precautions will be misconstrued as a threat. Number 7. Government collaborating with big tech. In today's digital age, there's a growing concern about the close relationship between the government and big tech companies. This might seem unrelated to prepping, but hear me out. One major concern is how this collaboration might impact our ability to prepare freely online. Here's the deal. The government wants to keep us safe, and big tech companies have incredible tools for collecting and analyzing data. Think of it like this. Social media platforms can track your every like, share, and purchase. Search engines know what questions you're asking and what websites you're visiting. This creates a massive pool of data that the government can tap into to identify potential threats. On the surface, this partnership could help address certain threats, like terrorism or criminal activity. But it also raises serious questions about privacy and our freedom to live our lives without constant monitoring. Preppers often rely on online platforms to share information, find supplies, and connect with other preppers. The idea that our online activities could be misinterpreted is unsettling, to say the least. What's even more concerning is that technology is constantly evolving. As it does, this collaboration between the government and big tech will likely become even more complex. Think of a future where facial recognition software can track your movements everywhere you go, or where social media profiles are used to create a detailed psychological assessment of every citizen. That means the conversation around the implications for all individuals, including preppers, will become even more important. We need to be aware of these potential developments and take steps to protect our privacy and our right to prepare for any situation. So, what can we do? Again, knowledge is power. Knowing that our online activities might be monitored means we need to be a little more careful. Here's what we can do. Use privacy-focused browsers and search engines. These tools can help minimize the amount of data that's collected about your online activities. Also, be mindful of what you share online. Avoid posting detailed information about your prepping plans or specific locations where you store your supplies. And if possible, explore alternative communication methods. Consider using secure messaging apps or even low-tech solutions like encrypted emails to communicate with other preppers. Number 6. The USDA's militarization. Let's switch gears for a moment. We all know the USDA, right? The big government agency that makes sure our food is safe, helps rural communities thrive, and protects our natural resources. Sounds like a good thing, wouldn't you agree? Here's a twist you might not expect. The USDA has been arming itself in a way that raises some eyebrows. We're talking about serious firepower, including submachine guns. You might be scratching your head wondering what the USDA needs such powerful weapons for. Here's the thing. Thanks to some laws passed back in the 80s and a big push in the early 2000s, USDA investigators, along with folks from other federal agencies, have been authorized to carry these weapons. But it's not just any gun. These submachine guns have all the bells and whistles, ambidextrous safety, different firing modes, night sights, and all the tactical accessories you can imagine. They even wanted it to be lightweight, have a big magazine, and even an oversized trigger guard for those cold days on the job. This isn't what USDA is supposed to do, now is it? Also, all this doesn't necessarily mean the USDA is coming for your emergency food stockpile, but it does raise some questions. Why does an agency focused on agriculture and conservation need such heavily armed investigators? Is this a sign of increasing threats to our food supply chain or rural communities? As preppers, we understand the importance of being prepared for unexpected situations. The USDA's arsenal might be a niche issue, but it's a reminder to be aware of potential disruptions to our food systems. Here's how to stay ahead of the curve. Diversify your food sources. Don't rely solely on grocery stores. Grow your own food, support local farmers markets, and learn basic food preservation techniques. Also, build a stockpile of essentials. This should include non-perishable food items, water purification tablets, and basic cooking supplies. And don't forget to keep an eye on local and nationwide updates related to agriculture, food safety, and potential threats to our food supply. Number 5. Confiscation of our stockpiles. Here's a fact that might surprise you. The government has the legal authority to seize personal resources during national emergencies. Let me paint you a picture. You've been working hard, building a stockpile of food, water, and other essentials to keep your family safe through any crisis. Then, bam, an executive order gets issued. Now, these orders are meant to mobilize resources efficiently in times of national disaster, like a massive hurricane or a widespread pandemic. It sounds reasonable on the surface, right? The government needs to make sure everyone gets the supplies they need. But here's the catch. These orders could potentially include the confiscation of personal food supplies and other resources. It's a scary thought, especially for preppers who put so much time and effort into being prepared. The idea of having your carefully built stockpile taken away just when you need it most goes against the whole idea of self-reliance, right? Look, we understand the government might be trying to take care of everyone during a crisis. However, it raises important questions about our individual rights and the balance between collective needs and personal preparedness. It's a complex issue, but one that we as preppers need to be aware of. I understand firsthand how even the concept of government confiscation can feel like a violation of the trust we as preppers place in our government to protect our property and our ability to care for ourselves and our families. It's important to remember that these executive orders are meant to be used in extreme circumstances, but the possibility is still there. This is why we need to take steps to protect our stockpiles, while also being prepared to contribute to the collective good in a time of crisis. Here's the deal. Knowledge is power. Knowing about these potential executive orders allows you to take steps to protect your stockpile. Here are a few things you can do. Diversify your storage locations. Don't keep all your supplies in one place. consider storing some items with a trusted friend or family member who lives outside your immediate area. Invest in discreet storage solutions. Think about ways to camouflage your stockpile, use inconspicuous containers or hidden compartments within your home. Also, play it smart. Stock up on things the government might be less likely to seize, like basic tools, seeds for growing your own food, and first aid supplies. Number 4. Restrictions on self-sufficiency. Okay, here's another thing that might surprise you. There are actually laws and regulations that can affect your ability to be self-sufficient. Think about it like this. You want to collect rainwater for your garden or install solar panels to generate your own electricity. That makes sense, right? Well, in some places there might be laws making it difficult or expensive to do those things. These changes in the legal landscape can feel like a direct attack on our desire for independence and self-reliance. After all, being self-sufficient isn't just about being prepared for emergencies. It's about a way of life that values sustainability and control over your own resources. When new laws make it harder to collect rainwater, grow your own food, or generate your own power, it feels like someone's trying to tell you how to live. Now, it's important to understand that the impact of these regulations can vary. Some might just be minor inconveniences, while others could make it really difficult to live off the grid or outside the conventional food supply chain. The key here is to be informed and engaged. Let me tell you what you can do about it. Stay up to date on local laws and regulations. This will help you understand what's allowed and what's not in your area. There are resources available online and through local government websites. You can also attend town hall meetings or contact your local representatives to learn more about proposed changes to laws that might affect your self-sufficiency practices. Also, try to find workarounds. Sometimes there are ways to achieve your goals within the bounds of the law. For example, you might be able to collect rainwater in a small container that complies with local regulations. Or you could explore alternative ways to generate your own electricity, such as small wind turbines or biogas generators. Number 3. Off-grid dreams and zoning nightmares. Here's another hurdle on the path to self-sufficiency: zoning laws and property use regulations. These can sometimes feel like they're stuck in the past and don't reflect the changing needs of people who want to live off-grid. For preppers, these restrictions are more than just a headache. They're a fundamental challenge to our ability to live independently, prepare for emergencies, and reduce our environmental impact. The dream of a sustainable, off-grid lifestyle can get tangled up in ordinances that require homes to be connected to public utilities or restrict land use in ways that don't allow for self-sufficient practices. Here's the good news: we can do something about it. As these government policies shape the possibilities of off-grid living, it's crucial for preppers to get involved. Here are some ways to be proactive. Engage with local planning and zoning boards. Let them know about your interest in off-grid living and the challenges you face with existing regulations. Attend meetings, voice your concerns, and propose solutions. Educate others about the benefits of self-reliance. The more people understand the positive impact of self-sufficient lifestyles, the more likely they are to support changes that make it easier to achieve them. Talk to your neighbors, organize community events, and spread the word about the benefits of living off-grid, both for individuals and the environment. By working within the system, advocating for change, and educating others, we can make it easier to live the off-grid lifestyle many of us dream of. Here are some additional tips for navigating challenging zoning regulations. While advocating for change is important, it can take time. In the meantime, here are some things you can do to work within the existing framework. It's all about finding loopholes and alternative solutions. Make sure to do your research. Be sure to thoroughly understand the specific zoning regulations in your area. Sometimes there might be loopholes or exceptions that allow for some off-grid practices, even in restricted areas. Also, get creative. Think outside the box and find clever ways to achieve your goals. For example, you might be able to disguise a rainwater collection system as a decorative garden feature or build a small self-sufficient home that technically meets the square footage requirements of your local zoning code. And even if that doesn't work for you, consider alternative living arrangements. If strict zoning laws make off-grid living impossible in your area, explore other options. Could you purchase land in a more rural area with more flexible regulations? Could you form a co-op or community with other preppers who share your vision? By being resourceful and exploring alternative options, you can still find ways to live a self-sufficient lifestyle, even with challenging zoning regulations. Number 2. Control over food. As preppers, one of our top priorities is having control over what we eat. This means growing our own food or sourcing it locally whenever possible. But here's the thing, the government has a lot of regulations on food production. These can sometimes feel like unnecessary hurdles on our path to food independence. Let's talk about some specific examples. There are rules about genetically modified organisms, GMOs, pesticides, and differing farming practices. While these regulations are intended to ensure food safety and protect the environment, they can also limit our choices. For example, some regulations might make it harder to use heirloom seeds, farm organically, or avoid using certain chemicals we believe are unnecessary or harmful. So what can we do? The good news is we don't have to be passive in this situation. Get involved in local food policy discussions. Many communities are having conversations about how food is grown and distributed. Make your voice heard and advocate for policies that support local food production and sustainable farming practices. Also, support advocacy groups. There are organizations dedicated to food sovereignty, which is the idea that communities should have control over their own food systems. Find groups in your area or online that align with your values and support their work. By getting involved and staying informed, we can work towards a food system that allows us to grow our own food, source it locally, and make informed choices about what we eat. While some regulations might seem restrictive, there are often ways to work within the system and still achieve your goals. Here are a few tips. Explore alternative farming methods. Look into techniques like organic farming, permaculture, or biointensive gardening. These methods can be just as productive as conventional farming while often being more environmentally friendly. Join a community-supported agriculture (CSA) program. This allows you to buy directly from a local farm and receive a regular share of their harvest. It's a great way to support local agriculture and get fresh, seasonal produce. You can also start a backyard garden. Even if you don't have a lot of space, you can still grow some of your own food. There are many resources available on container gardening and vertical gardening techniques that can help you maximize your yield in a small space. Number 1. Gun ban. This is a topic that hits close to home for many of us. Gun ownership and the potential for restrictions on firearms. Guns aren't just about hobbies or traditions. They're critical tools for hunting and ensuring the safety of our homes and families. When new laws propose restrictions on gun ownership, it strikes at the heart of our preparedness philosophy. Around the world, the debate over gun control is highly polarized. In the majority of countries, civilian gun ownership is heavily restricted or outright banned. However, America stands out as one of the few where civilians have the right to own guns, protected by the Second Amendment of the Constitution. For us preppers in the U.S., the issue is deeply practical. Access to firearms is a cornerstone of self-reliance, enabling us to hunt for food and defend against threats. Any legislation that could limit our rights under the Second Amendment is a huge concern, as it could hinder our preparedness strategies and our sense of security. The Second Amendment of the U.S. Constitution states, "A well-regulated militia, being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed." This amendment was designed to ensure that individuals have the right to protect themselves, their families, and their communities. For preppers, this right is fundamental. In times of crisis or emergency, having the ability to defend ourselves and procure food through hunting can be essential. It's not just about exercising a constitutional right, it's about maintaining the practical means to survive and thrive independently. When discussions about gun control arise, it's important to consider the potential impacts on preparedness. Restrictions on gun ownership could limit our ability to acquire firearms for hunting or self-defense. This, in turn, could compromise our ability to sustain ourselves during extended emergencies. Moreover, restrictions on gun ownership can erode the sense of security that preppers rely on. Feeling confident in our ability to protect our families and property is essential for maintaining a resilient mindset in challenging times. The debate around gun control is complex and multifaceted. On one hand, there's a need for public safety and the prevention of firearm-related crimes. On the other hand, there's a desire to preserve individual freedoms and rights. As preppers, we must stay informed and engaged in discussions about gun rights and regulations. This includes advocating for policies that respect our constitutional rights while promoting responsible firearm ownership. Additionally, diversifying our preparedness strategies beyond firearms can help mitigate the impact of potential restrictions. This might include learning alternative methods of self-defense, such as martial arts or non-lethal tools. Speaking of sneaky things the government can do, click the video on screen now to learn about the 11 surprising things the government can legally take from you.